I hear sleigh bells.
Do you hear the Christmas
I
spirit?
hear the magic.
It's ringing through our veins, you guys. Happy Wednesday. It is cookie chat night, day. What is this? We're on YouTube now?
I know. It's just, it's early morning for us, actually.
It is. You guys, there's no light coming in. I feel like we are pretty much doing this at night.
I know.
It's like our normal. But you guys, hello. Welcome to the cookie chat. If you are new here and you're just finding us on YouTube, welcome to the entertainment.
Welcome. Welcome to our cookie world.
Yes. A little bit of sweetness for your day coming from here. But you guys, I cannot believe we're this far into the year.
Oh my goodness.
And we've touched so many topics that I think it's time to enter into the holiday season.
It's the big boys, guys. It's that time of year. We've got our reindeer on.
We're glittering. If you have not guessed, you guys, we are going to launch a new series of special little treats for you. And the first one is going to be Christmas Cookie Challenge.
Guys, I mean, we live on Food Network, right? Like, that's our happy place. That's our go-to zone. And I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of us who even started doing cookies because we were watching Christmas Cookie Challenge. And we're like, I want to learn to do that.
Yes.
So
here we are. We're going to kick it off, you guys.
And we've been seeing everything come out about who's on it this season and all of that. And guys, if you did not know, you are in the midst, have been this whole time, of a past Food Network Christmas Cookie Challenge contestant.
Thank you. Yes, you guys, I was on Christmas Cookie Challenge oh my goodness, I think this is season 6.
Yeah.
My goodness, it's been like 3 years. I cannot believe it's been that long.
I know. It's been a minute. Gosh, I remember watching you before I even knew you.
That's how I made some of my best cookie friends.
I know. So, I mean, to kick all of this off and to get us even more excited and in the Christmas spirit, what better thing can we do than just ask Miss Chelsea all of the things that we want to know about Food Network's Christmas Cookie Challenge. So, yes. Miss Chelsea, are you ready to be interviewed?
I am. This feels so weird, you guys. Usually we're on the
She's like, oh, I guess I don't need questions. I'm like, no, we're not even going to run through this ahead of time. We're just going to go.
Melissa's just throwing them at me. So let's see what you got.
Okay. Let me put my hosting hat on. Miss Chelsea, we already know the name of your business, but it's on there on the screen. But would you like to share it with us again?
All right, you guys, my name is Chelsea, and I am from Surprise, Arizona, and I am the owner of Rolling in the Dough AZ.
Woohoo! Yes. Welcome, Chelsea. Welcome.
I feel like you are interviewing me on the show. They make you say that.
Flashbacks.
I know, right? Deja vu here.
Okay, if you could please share for us, what episode were you, so that after people watch this, they can go back and rewatch. So tell us what the episode name was and what number it was.
Awesome. Okay, you guys, so you can go back and watch any of the previous seasons of Christmas Cookie Challenge. They're super fun to binge during this time of year, and you'll recognize some amazing faces throughout the process. Mine was season 3, episode 2, center of the season. I believe I got that right.
Love it. Okay, who was the host?
Eddie Jackson was the host. So who you guys see this past season that aired last year changed a little bit because of the craziness of the world.
Sure.
My season, I believe, and do not quote me on this, but I believe was the last one that had Eddie as the host and then 3 judges.
Okay.
Because then it switched over to Eddie and Ree doing kind of both.
Were you starstruck with Ree?
Yes. Oh my goodness, you guys.
I mean,
I had met her before. She's come to Arizona to do obviously book tours and special events. So my mom, brother, and I have been to 2 of her events. So I had seen her before in person, and then I was like, oh my gosh, do I tell her that? I'm like, hey girl, we're besties. I
know. It's like you have to toe the line of who are you? But
yes. I know. Yes.
Oh, that's so fun. That's so fun. Okay, so really quickly, I guess, give us kind of a quick overview synopsis of what exactly the show is, just in case anybody's on here who hasn't seen it before.
Yeah. So Christmas Cookie Challenge started obviously 6 years ago now, and it's kind of progressed over the seasons. It showcases bakers throughout the United States, different skill levels, different specialties just in the baking pastry world. But this show specifically is tailored to the audience of Christmas cookies, since that is one of the most iconic desserts of the season. And we just see it explode from home based bakers to pastry shops to even just everyday people. Everyone
Oh,
has
at
a
home.
memory,
Yeah.
yeah, of decorating Christmas cookies. So it is the season of the cookie. And that really just presents challenges that you might not just choose to do at home. You're like, let me do
Mhm.
this. So it goes a step further than just building a gingerbread house. They give you elaborate requirements and tasks that you have a timed section to complete everything in. So
And it starts with 5
yes,
bakers, right? It's all contained in one show, so it's not like a series like,
correct.
yeah, it's not a long series or anything. So it's per show, and you start with 5 bakers, and then it goes down to the final round of 3,
Mhm, mhm,
correct?
correct.
Yes.
So there's one elimination, and then the winner is announced.
Yes. And you'll have to go back and watch Chelsea's episode to see how
We'll
it went
probably
for
end up
her.
giving it away, but yes. No, please watch my episode. It would be fun.
Yeah. So, okay, so this was 3 years ago,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So at that time, how long had you been doing cookies for?
2 years.
2
I was
years. So
going into mine, yeah.
were you at full time then?
Yes, I had it was the time I just transitioned. So I transitioned in August into full-time, and then, yes, yeah, it was insane. I don't think I
So
could have
did it
done it
air that December after you did full time, or you're saying like that following year you recorded
that
it?
following year.
That following year. Okay.
Mhm.
So had you watched it before? I mean, how did you
Oh, yeah.
even like know about it? And like when you first saw it, were you like, okay, I want to be on that. I want to do that.
So I had watched Christmas Cookie at the point of conception because a lot of my baker friends that as I was getting into baking and you start following accounts were
Sure.
announcing. I was like, oh my gosh, I
That
need to
they're
go
on
watch
it.
these. Yeah. So I was watching those and I was like, I could never do that because I feel like we all like Monday morning quarterback the episode. And we're like,
Hmm.
oh, I could totally do that. I would have done this.
Oh,
And
right.
so I was like, oh, I don't think I could do that. And then I had a number of customers because the season, I'm sure a lot of you guys get reached out to by your own customers and are like, I'm watching this. You could totally do that.
Yes.
And I got a few like super cute messages. And one of them in particular, she's like, my daughter and I were watching, and she's like, my cookie lady could do so much better than that. She could be on this show. And I was like, oh, yeah, dare to
Oh,
dream.
how
It's
sweet.
sure, maybe one day, like you can't just at the time, you couldn't just like apply.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, I was in Driveline for my son at school, and I got a DM on Instagram, and it was in like the approved folder.
Right.
And I was like, who is this person? And it was like a whole message like, hey, please contact me for Christmas Cookie Challenge. I'm like, is this a joke? Like, it literally, I
Ah,
just got done responding like 30 minutes prior to this lady saying, like, oh, yeah, maybe one day.
yeah.
And this guy was in my DMs, and I'm like, I'm gonna vet you. So I like cyber stalked and was like typing in his name, like, are you really somebody who works in the industry?
Right.
And then he sent me an email to my actual business email too with all his contact. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should take this. But it was one of those like, wait, did you email the wrong person? Are you sure?
Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
crazy. Okay, so what can you tell us about? Is there anything that you can tell us about that process?
Yeah. So you do have to audition. So it's not just, I feel like there's a misconception over the years of people who have reached out to me or asked that you kind of just apply and they're like, sign on the dot. Let's go.
Yeah.
You're on the show. No, there's an entire vetting process down to like interview questions with multiple levels within the industry. It's not just one and done. Could be. I guess everybody's experience might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
I've just never personally heard of somebody who didn't have to do anything and just kind of got signed.
Right.
Um, Obviously, you're
We
on a
talked
major.
about before. Some people are like super personable and things
Mhm.
like that on, say, like their personal account. But when you camera test, it can read totally different. People can freeze. There's something very different about all of a sudden being in a setting like that,
Yes.
or just freeze under that kind of pressure. So, I mean, yeah, they have to do what's right for the show, right?
Right. And you kind of have to, like Melissa said, walk through that process of, yeah, we all might talk to our Instagram stories, but if you could remember back how intimidating a lot of people have shared with us that it felt when they first got on Instagram and were showing their face,
Right.
and then to be under pressure on a major network. Like it's just one of those, no one knows how you're going to react in a situation until you're placed in it.
Yes.
So you do have a step process in it. A lot of questions, a lot of vetting, obviously background checks, all of these things. So there is a way to conduct yourself
Yeah.
throughout them. But as long as you're truly you, because they are looking for your personality to shine. I mean,
Sure.
how many bakers, let's say in one season, 5 per, that they at least have like 50 different bakers. So what kind of
Yeah.
sets you out from or sets you apart from the other 49 that are on the show?
Right. So was it just interviewing or did you actually have to do some like at home, like quick, like, did they want to see how you were thinking on your feet sort of things? Like, did you actually have to create some stuff?
They do ask you a lot of questions on that and ask you to send over some work. But
Okay.
again, every audition process might be a little bit different. So don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do ask to see work. They do ask to see like, what would you do in this scenario? As far as if I said this, what would you tell me?
Yeah.
So they'll ask you a lot of that to see how quick you can think on your feet.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So from the time that they reached out to you to the
Mhm.
time that you knew you were selected, what did like, how long was that? And what did you think when they like, was it a phone call? Was it an email? Like,
Yeah, so again, everybody's kind of shifts differently depending upon what the show was looking for on that. The people that I competed with alone, when we compared stories, everybody had a different kind of timeline. So I
yeah.
think it just is falling into, I cannot imagine their job trying to like who goes well with who and who can
Oh, totally.
all of it.
It's a very like delicate balancing act behind the
Oh yeah.
scenes there.
Oh yeah, 100%. So by the time I initially got reached out to and then found out, it had been almost 2.5 months.
Okay.
So it was, for me, it was a process. For
Mhm.
other people I've heard, they were like, "Oh my gosh, I did everything." Like in that what I did in 2 months in interviews like here and there, and then you wouldn't hear from somebody, ended up crunching down to like 2 weeks for them. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, when I got the phone call, it was always like Driveline picking people up. So I got the phone call and I almost didn't answer it because it was, I think it was like New York or something was the number.
Uh-huh.
And I had been dealing with California numbers. So I was
Yeah.
like, who is this? I thought it was like car, like, is your warranty up?
Right. Oh, all the time.
And I answered the phone and she was like, well, I have some news for you. I'm like, okay. She's like, we made a decision. Like, okay. She's like, and I'm like, spit it out. What are you going to say to me? And she said that I had made the show. And I was like, I remember screaming. I was like, wait, for real? Like, you don't have the wrong number? You sure? You know who you're
Yay!
talking to? She was laughing. She's like, yes, I think I know who I'm talking to.
So then how long did you have between then and when you actually like went to go film? Because they don't I mean, they when do they usually film? They usually film in the spring, right?
It can vary. It
Yeah.
definitely varies. It depends on like what stage is open, where they're hosting it that year. So there's a lot of production,
Mhm.
moving pieces and puzzles that go around the back. So it could be different every single year where you're going to be. I filmed in California, which is a hop, skip, and a jump away from here.
Yeah.
So was not
A
far.
big deal, yeah.
Yeah. And I had been through dance and cheer in high school. The area that we filmed in, we had already done things
Yeah.
over there. So I was like, oh yeah, no, like it was a simple transition. The
Yeah.
fun thing, you guys, about where I got to film is it's still in the same like area that you do see a lot of like filming and dance and stuff like that. But the actual set that we were on was the set of The Office.
Stop it.
So and if you guys don't know, Friends, and The Office, and Parks and Rec are
Those
like
are
my,
like your go-tos.
yes.
Ah.
So my producer, when we pulled up, I was like, why does this look so familiar? And he's like, I'm going to guess you're an Office fan. I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, this is the building of the office. So like where we were like housed for the day was Michael Scott's office.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
on the show. It doesn't look the same. Like it's
That
amazing how like
is
camera angles.
amazing.
But they were like, oh yeah, no, this is like the actual staircase that like Stanley falls down and the like
Ah,
lobby. So yeah, it was just so odd being there. I'm like, oh my God, they
what a
moved it
cool
there.
experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you get to know who else you were going to be filming with, like other contestants, or you didn't know anything about it until you all arrived?
Yeah, you do not know. Again, you guys, throughout this whole process, things could have changed. It was a couple of years ago. My experience was I did not know whatsoever. And it was so scary, like thinking back now, because I know all of them. But
Yeah.
at the time, you're just like, I mean, everybody on Instagram experiences at some point the imposter syndrome of, am I good enough? Am I
Oh, totally.
keeping up? There's so many trends. Can I do that? And imagine sitting in a car being like, oh my gosh, I'm going to film. And like, who is going to come walking through this door? Like, I can now, those contestants that you see on like, I don't watch The Bachelor, but when you see the previews and they're all like, who's coming in? Yeah,
Yeah.
you're checking out everybody. But we got into the car together. And so we had to pick. I was the first picked up from the airport. And then all of a sudden I'm like, they're like, we're grabbing another one. I'm like, oh, what's their name? They're like, oh, you'll meet them in a moment.
Oh my goodness.
And so Miss Tiffany, when she watched my episode, she got in the car and the moment she got in, I was just like, oh my gosh, I love her.
I mean, you have to imagine that these are probably somewhat extroverted people, right?
Right.
So, like, surely they're going to be personable and like ready to talk and stuff.
Oh
So,
yeah. So no, she had just flown in from a long day of flying. And I was, to me, again, it was like an hour flight. So I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I haven't been, a lot of them had been like at the airport since the morning and
right.
all of this. So she got in the car and again, it's kind of like, it's an experience that you can't describe to somebody else until they have been in the spot
Mm-hmm.
because you're thrown together with 4 other people and the 5 of you are like, you have to kind of create this bond and you're in this experience together that you all don't, no one knows what's coming. So you're
Yeah.
kind of forced to bond and create some type of connection before you're like
Yeah.
on live TV.
Well, and I feel like, I mean, for us, what we've mostly, for the majority of experience in the cookie community, and people say this who even aren't in the cookie community, is like, it looks like you guys are such cheerleaders for each other and like such a warm community. And it's really cool to see. And I mean, I would imagine that I know everybody's experience is going to be different, but it sounds like from what you've told me in the past too, is like that was exactly your experience of meeting these people in person, as it truly is like kind of a bond. And I would imagine too, like one of the things that you hear about CookieCon is it's just so amazing to be in a space with other artists who are as passionate and love doing what you do as much as you do. I mean, that's what you hear about people doing like Project Runway or things like that. It's like, it's a very like unique art that we do.
Yes.
And sorry. It's a very unique art that we do. So to be like able to truly like integrate with people like that, especially 3 years ago, I feel like it wasn't as big as it is now, or the community isn't as big or wasn't as big.
Correct. And it's just very similar to what you said, that cheerleader mentality. And Tiffany and I, our person who picked us up, I don't know what like their was an AD, but whatever their title is called.
Yeah.
She was fabulous and just so sweet. And if you guys know me or if you've watched for a while, you know I can talk and super extroverted. So her and I became friends and then we were like, hey, Tiffany, you want to be our friend too?
Yeah.
And then we picked up Josh that night. So if you guys watch our episode, it was Josh, Tiffany, and I. And oh my goodness, we were stuck in LA traffic and it was Tiffany's first time to California. Josh is from Texas. And we were just like, Josh had been to LA to meet again. It's the next state over, so it's not far. And Tiffany was just like amazed by all the lights and the traffic and the things. So it was just one of those like, oh, look over here, you're going to see the Hollywood sign. And we just, I think the 3 of us hit it off and our faces hurt. We like got to the hotel together and we were like, we can't feel our jawline because we just could not stop laughing, which was great energy to walk into because
totally. And like bravo to casting and producers for putting you guys together too, because obviously that creates magic on on film.
Yeah, and you don't know how, like, you don't know if you're going to connect with somebody. And from what I've heard, everyone has their one person that you just like bond with.
Yeah.
And I feel like throughout my experience, I still talk to all of my castmates to this day. So there's like a special bond with each of them. But yeah, Josh and Tiffany, oh my gosh, it was walking into that hotel. When we walked up to the front desk, they were like, "You must be on Christmas Cookie." And I'm like, "Did you tell?" They're like, "You guys are so loud. Wait till like the ending of the week, and you guys will not have so much energy." And so every day they did like a energy tally. It was like,
That's so cute.
still walking
That's
in.
so funny. Now, it's not like Top Chef where it's like they land and immediately they throw like a challenge at them. I mean, so you get there and you've got what, like a day of just like getting stuff set up and things like that. And then like, like officially like, okay, we're going to film, or what's that process?
So the day you get, for us, I know, and it was so sad. I'm really sad for the people that experienced it with the craziness of the world.
Yeah.
Censoring what I say, guys, because now we're on YouTube.
But, I'm going to drink my coffee over here.
Oh, I just drink it on stream. We had a different experience in the sense that there was no social distancing. It was life before, if you could imagine. So that close, like intimate bond or hugging or sitting close to somebody and just being like, I'm going to fall asleep on your shoulder because I am so tired. But you do like a lot of just behind the scenes camera testing and interviews and all of that stuff while getting ready to go into your challenge. And you get a tour of the kitchen. And you guys, let me freaking tell you, it is so, you don't get long. I think it's like a 15, 20 minute, just like quick run through of this is the kitchen, this is where things are.
Yeah.
Your eyes are like, oh my gosh, like what I could create with that, what I could do with this.
Oh, totally.
You can imagine as a baker, because they don't just have cookie stuff. It is like any ingredient, decor, gold flakes, anything you can imagine that you could see in like a big cake store of dreams plastered everywhere. And you're just like, oh my gosh. Yes. It's
okay. When they're showing you around, because my brain goes to like, you've got to be going in there with some strategy, right?
Yeah. And then it goes out the door when you see the kitchen.
Yeah. And so like, as you're walking around the kitchen, are you in your brain thinking like, okay, so there's that thing that I need. I need to like, let my flow happen like this. Is there any of that? Or are you just kind of like,
no, there's no time for that. You're just so struck. There's just so much going on. Like there's film crews setting up. There's don't trip on this, don't trip on, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
There's just so many things and you're having to listen because you want to know like how things work, where things are. So you are like trying to battle a two perspective of, oh my gosh, my mind is going, but what are you saying? Right. So multitasking that process becomes a tad bit difficult, but it was, imagine just walking to like Santa's workshop and you're like, oh, I
can't even imagine. That would be so cool. That's like, amazing. Even just like for somebody to hand me a commercial kitchen, even and just be like, okay, you have this for the week. I'd be like, what?
Yes, exactly. I have this many ovens. I have this many the craziness.
That's awesome. So leading up to it, and again, if people haven't watched Christmas Cookie Challenge, there's generally like 2 or 3 recipes that you like want to have on hand ready to go, right? So did you do any recipe testing for yourself before you went? Did you kind of know what you had and were using what you had, or what was your strategy?
So I had watched back a lot of the seasons because I had seen them before.
Oh, I can imagine you were like binging those.
Oh yeah, I'm going to study because you don't know also what judge you're going to get. I do think, like I said, I think our season was the last that had the 3 judges.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, what do they like? How do you tailor this?
Because like Ree loves like the underbaked cookie.
Yeah, which is my galore. Yeah, I'm all about that. So I had no issue on that one. But it was just kind of like what flavors had been done. So really trying to focus and hone in on that is, okay, everybody obviously does a sugar cookie because it's the name of the game.
Right.
How do I set my sugar cookie apart? How do I come with something that maybe hasn't been seen? So yeah, there is recipe testing. And that is when I created my vanilla orange cranberry cookie.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was like, okay, well, what has not been seen? So I tested that and I made that prior, just trying to be like, what is something unique that I can have? Because I'm sure all of us can do our sugar cookie recipe in our sleep.
Right.
So having to like make sure that you knew a recipe. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you had to know all of your quantities ahead of time? Like you're not allowed to bring anything in. Now, what if you have like we all have our certain type of like vanilla bean paste or our specific like brands that we love? Are you allowed to bring your own, any of your own ingredients? You have to use what they have.
Yep.
Interesting.
I know. For royal icing, I was like, what brand is this? I've never used this. Is it the same quantity? So there are things that they're pretty well stocked on a lot of different brands and like things that we would be familiar with. But I mean, you always might have that one-off ingredient that.
And you don't get to test bake anything. Like you're going in blind on how does their oven bake. Like,
yes. Yeah. If you guys go back to my episode, there's one part where I'm literally like staring at the oven. I'm like, what?
I would be.
Like there's an internal thermometer, which I don't have and I should probably get.
Yeah.
Because the internal temperature is
different
than what's going to read when you're opening and closing.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are you still baking? So I'm like watching it like, I need you to bake because it's a timed challenge.
Right.
And
did you roll your dough any thinner, anything like that to help things
because
like go
again, I don't think that's the time to mess with your recipe. You
know,
because you don't know how something's. And I just stuck to my tried and trues.
Yeah,
that I knew were gonna work. But yeah, baking in their oven, I was like, he's like, "Are you trying to use your laser like eyes to bake it?" I'm like, "No, I just can't figure this oven out."
So what's the actual time that you get? Like on your first challenge, they basically give you kind of like a theme. They don't do a secret ingredient then, right? Not on the first.
Yeah.
So they give you kind of like a theme to do. How long do you have?
Everyone is different. I think it is based off of the difficulty of the challenge because obviously their lead creative chefs that come up with these challenges have had to test them.
Yeah.
So my first one, if you guys did not see, was a slice and bake. And I was like, whoever does this? Like when you do a slice and bake, you're just buying that pre-done at the store. I'm not like creating my own colors and designs in it. So I was like, what? How am I even going to do this?
Yeah.
So I believe it was 90 minutes, I want to say, which sounds, everyone's like, oh, that's enough time. But think about when you're trying to create something. So it was either 90 minutes or an hour.
Right.
That we got to do that one. And I was just like, the time flies. You are sharing space with people and trying not to bump them. And then it's intimidating in the sense of someone else's cookies are in the oven. And you're like, oh my gosh.
So are you guys talking to each other much as you're doing it? Or are you like pretty like quiet or?
My experience, we were because we had that bonding time prior. So we're like, just checking in on you. Are you okay?
Yeah.
I love you. They didn't put it in the episode, which they're so gracious, you guys. If you're ever doing Christmas cookie challenge, you think like, oh gosh, they're going to put like, you see cooking shows where they're falling or fumbling the stuff and it makes for great entertainment.
Right. I'd be worried that I'd be like cursing.
Oh, they correct you on that.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah. They are very gracious at the way they portray your experience. They know everybody's nervous.
It's not like a Real Housewives situation.
No.
Where they're
No, I was like, oh my gosh, you're going to see me like, I'm breaking out in hives. I'm this.
Right.
I'm like, no, you're fine. So, and it's funny because when you watch it back, you're like, oh my God, I know I tripped there. Or I know I did this there.
Yeah.
Tiffany and I ended up using very similar colored dough.
Oh.
And we were both had it in the blast freezer.
Yeah.
And it was just because you're going so fast. And she, obviously you're not looking what the next person's doing. She grabbed my dough to start assembling. And I'm like, where's my dough? So I'm literally walking around the kitchen looking at everybody's station. I'm like, where is all of my stuff? Now I'm wasting time.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, it was I'm doing that same color scheme. I was like, of course you are. Yes, it was, one of those moments. But again, it's just, you kind of can't change things.
Yeah.
You got to keep it going.
So tell us about the secret ingredient.
So my secret ingredient, there was a lot. They give you 5. I think it was all different types of spices like tarragon and this and that. And I got really lucky in the sense when they announced it, I was like, I've seen people have to use like chili and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't put anything like that. I am not classically trained. I am YouTube and Pinterest and self-taught.
YouTube University. What?
Yes. So that's where I learned all of my baking skills. No, I shouldn't say baking skills, my decorating skills, all of that. So my mind doesn't creatively think, where some people are very recipe oriented and can really put those things out. Josh and who else was?
Yeah, you had a couple.
I had a couple. I don't want to say that I know Josh for sure because everything going on with them. But I want to say all of them. No, Tiffany and I were the only two that had not been some type of culinary school, pastries. Knew at one point I needed like a spice, and I think it was like allspice.
I thought, yes, I think it was allspice or Chinese 5 spice, maybe
something. And I was like, where's the allspice? And like, well, there's ingredients to make. I'm like, I know it says all the spices, but like, how much of all the spices? And they're like, we can't tell you that. I was like, Josh,
can we be more specific about all?
I know. It's like, Josh, she's like, 2 parts cinnamon, 2 parts this, 2 parts that. I'm like, what? And who knows this? So yes, a lot of them had that. So when like Josh would hear something, he's like, oh yeah, you can just totally. I'm like, no, I don't just randomly put chili pepper in my baked goods. So it was very intimidating, but I think I went with the safe. I should say, of all. And Tiffany and I chose the same one. And I was like, girl, you better share that, because if I have to get stuck with something else, I'm going to cry. I do not know.
So did you have a couple of recipe options in your brain of like what you could pull from, like a chocolate versus like a lighter thing, depending on what the secret ingredient was?
Kind of. From watching the previous episodes, I was like, oh gosh, you can't. I was trying to keep it more like a mellow, like if it worst case scenario, it could be added to a sugar cookie.
Yeah.
But what flavor profile would be the most that would be like memorable? So that kind of plays in your mind just because you don't know what's coming at you. So I just kept praying that it wasn't anything over the top spicy or that I would have to like grind and use chunks of. So yeah, that was when they announced it. I'm like, oh.
Was that what made you the most nervous, or was it like doing the decorating part, like figuring out what it was? I feel like that's where I would freeze the most. Like, I feel like the recipe stuff, I wouldn't freeze as much as like the, like, decorating. Like, you know me, I like to sketch my stuff out. Like,
I know Melissa's over here just like, it's a nice process.
I know. It's like, no, you got to let it marinate.
Yeah, no, speed is the name of the game in this one. And no, decorating is like my go-to zone. So I was like, once I knew that the cookies were out of the oven, if you have not watched my episode, spoiler alert, the second part of it is called Center of the Season, because we had to make an edible centerpiece. And there was like, it had to be so high and include this and that. I don't do 3-dimensional cookies.
Yeah.
So that was the mental process of having to like put it all together, have it hold, because the thing that you kind of don't realize is how hot it is in there.
Oh, I am sure. You know how hot it is with just like 1 or 2 ovens in your kitchen going. I can't imagine with that many, and the lights, the stage lights. Oh yeah.
And camera crews and people walking around. There's just a lot going on in a small area that you're like, this is so hot. But obviously you're not touching your hair. You can't touch like any of that type of stuff. And you're just trying to, that was the scariest part, is like, please don't fall apart. Please don't fall apart. Because what am I going to do? There's like, you kind of have to have a backup plan. I feel like the best piece of advice in that scenario is you just have to be able to pivot as things go. You have to be like, you know what, idea scratched, move on. Yeah. If you allow yourself to get like easily flustered over a design not going a certain way, that and dry time was very.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine dehydrator is going to be your friend there.
Yeah. They had dehydrators, and then you forget that you have them because there's so much other stuff going on that you're like trying to come down to okay, I'm going to bake. While those are baking, I'm going to flood these. But think about it. We bake and we'll let cookies cool for 20, 30, 40 minutes before decorating. You don't have that time to waste. So, yeah. It's a very,
That's gotta be terrifying. Okay, so since you got your secret ingredient, we can all assume that you made it to the second round.
yes.
Okay, so after getting through the first round, did that kind of like give you more confidence and you were like ready to go into it? Or were you more nervous because you knew that that meant like, okay, it's a secret ingredient and like,
Yeah. I will say for me personally, the first round was the scariest because I gave myself a goal of one, just make it onto the show. So the fact
yeah,
that I made it, I was like, okay,
that's
I'm
an
proud of
accomplishment.
myself. Right.
Mhm.
So no matter what happens from here, I'm just grateful for the experience and the people that I meet. And then once there, I was like, okay, if I could just make it to the second round, like I know I could do this. But oh my gosh, you guys, if you watch, I'm a commentary of it. When they were announcing like the first elimination, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna throw up on national TV. I'm
Eh,
gonna like, I'm
that's
sure
the
somebody's
scariest part is the standing there waiting as they're like announcing stuff. That is
yes, yes. And
the
you've
most
grown
nerve-wracking.
to love these people. So it's one of
Yeah.
those like, oh my gosh, I don't want to see someone go.
Yeah.
But
Did
you
you
always
kind of have an idea or
mm-mm.
like are you hearing them because I forget. They're telling you, yeah, as they're tasting stuff. Yeah, you're standing there, they're telling you what they're thinking.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, they are. And hearing their feedback. I mean, we hear customers that are like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is so sweet. And then to hear somebody be like, yeah, your cookie's underbaked. I don't like this about it. Your design is not executed. You're
I
like,
mean, yeah.
ah!
Yeah.
So,
That
and
would
everybody has
be
a different interpretation of cookies and designs and all of
yeah.
that. So that was just making it through the first round into the second. Entering into the second, I know this is not a very common experience. And I think it was because of the two others that I had with me. I will say I've done a lot of like student council and speech contests and public speak things where that you're kind of like competing against others
Right.
throughout life. And there's always that pit in your stomach that you're like, I just want to win. I just want to win. It was the first
Mhm.
time in life that I can say competing, it was like, you know what? I'm fine. If I don't win,
Yeah.
it's okay because I'm so happy for either of these. Like what we just went through and survived and what we created
Right.
was amazing. And just knowing how hard they worked and we were checking in on each other the whole time. Are you good? Do you need anything? I'm running to the pantry. Do you need something? I'll bring it to you.
Yeah.
That kind of camaraderie we
Well,
built
and
just
that
made
just
it.
that I feel like Christmas Cookie Challenge is about for me, it would be about like it's a bucket list, right? To like if you're in food and can be on a Food Network show, like that's a bucket list item. That's crazy.
Mhm.
And then like it's the experience of that all. And so having such camaraderie, I would imagine like that would check that box,
Yes.
like that would just I'm so glad that that was y'all's experience.
Yeah, no, it was the icing on the cake for
Yeah,
lack
for
of better terms.
sure.
But
For
it
sure.
was just to have that and have somebody know what you're going through and not judging you and like, hey, even though I'm competing against you, like I'm
Yes.
just as equally rooting for you.
Yeah.
So having the final going into it, the three of us or two of us, myself and the other two, I should say. So three
Yeah.
of us all sat down and we were just like, all right, here's what I'm scared about. Here's what I'm scared about. This is, and just putting it out there instead of holding it close to the vest.
Yes.
Like, I'm so nervous. I have this. I'm thinking about that. And we just all kind of calmed each other. Like, hey, don't go overboard crazy on this.
Yeah.
Tone back this. Try and what did you experience in the first round that maybe could be an obstacle in the second round? And I know that's not a very common approach, but I think, again, it was that camaraderie that Josh, Tiff, and I had built that we were kind of just take a step back. This is an experience over
Yeah.
the competition, and it made our time so much more enjoyable.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah. So
That's
I'm so
awesome.
sad when everyone's like, oh, I didn't get to talk to my other people because COVID and we had to be placed. So it's like, we
Yeah.
were like laying on each other, like, just hold me.
Oh, I
'Cause
love
you
that.
can't
It
talk
makes
to
me
people.
like I love those type of competition shows like the Top Chefs and Project Runway and like all the Food Network like competition shows and all of it. And you do like you'll see some behind the scenes like stuff where it's just like it seems like they've become friends and everything. And it just that's wonderful. It's almost like its own little like fraternity, you know?
It is. And that's where I say it's so hard because it's an experience unlike any other. How often are you on a show competing against time and baking that you're like, remember
Yeah.
that one time? People are like, no, I would never do that.
Right. Oh, totally. Okay. So speaking of that, So you filmed the show. You are not allowed to tell anybody except for I'd imagine like your like husband, like your immediate family or whoever has to watch your children or something while you're going to do this. And so then it finally gets to the point where they're like announcing. What was it like when you were able to announce like on your social media? Like what were your customers saying? Was everybody just like freaking out?
Yes, I will say it was one of those. It's the hardest secret to keep ever. That you're like, because you're so proud of yourself and you want
Of
to share and you
course.
experience this, and you're like, what?
And then
What am I?
especially like getting ready for your Christmas cookies that year, you'd want to be like, so
Right, right. No, it was amazing. The feedback was so sweet. People are so encouraging. And I feel like that year, it kind of, the first year obviously grows, second year, third year,
yeah.
it was
I
like
feel like the
people
third
knew.
year was the year that I like really saw like all of
Mhm.
it too.
Yes. So it was blissfully amazing and
Yeah.
just so sweet because I started with Christmas cookies. So it was kind of an ode to the beginning. I'm like, this is what kicked off my career. And this is what kind of like took my career to the next level of
Yeah.
validation and solidifying I am doing what I love and other people love it too. So
Yeah.
it was a very
Did you do
cool
like a watch party or anything?
I didn't. It aired East Coast time,
Okay.
I believe, and or no, I'm sorry, West Coast time.
Okay.
I don't know. It was like 10 o'clock at night, I think it aired for me.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
it was so late and it was in the midst of holiday orders.
Holiday. Sure.
So we didn't we were having our house built at the time. So we lived with my parents.
Okay.
So my mom's best friend came over and my cousin Paige came over and watched it. And I was just like,
Were you so nervous to watch? Because like you said,
yes.
you don't know what they're going to show.
No, you don't know what's going to show. You don't know what, because you know of all the things. Like there's a bump in between, like you can't walk a certain direction because obviously they have to have like all the cords.
Yeah.
And you guys, if you ever compete on it, I will say bring shoes. You think your shoes are going to show, they're not going to show. Or that's not what people are focused on.
Yeah.
Bring the ones like restaurant style that have the slip grip.
Right.
I didn't have those. And so mine were like, whoop, like I would slide across the floor. And it was just, I slid and I hit the bump.
Oh no.
My tray. So I was like, oh gosh, are they going to show that?
Oh my
Are they
gosh,
gonna
that would be
show-
terrifying too.
Yes. And again, like I said, they are so sweet. If you ever have those reservations about, oh, I can't do this because I'm super clumsy or I'm super awkward, they shine you in your best light.
That's awesome.
And
I know whenever I'm watching, I always have to like rewind. I'm like, well, wait, because I want to like follow everybody or like check them out on Instagram. And sometimes they'll say like their bakery name, but sometimes it like comes later or something like that. And I'm always like, wait, what is it?
Yes. Who are you? Yes. No, it was definitely an experience of one that I won't forget. But
I mean, absolutely. I can't imagine. Is there anything that you would have done differently? Or like, okay, let's start with that. Anything you would have done differently?
Probably just enjoyed more in the moment. I think I did very well in that, but looking back, you're just so concerned about how you're being perceived. What is going on? Am I doing this right? And it's hard to be in the presence of so many skilled bakers that you're just like, the imposter syndrome sits in. When we were all talking, they're like, oh, I trained here. I did this. I'm like, and they do, everybody I competed with does every other type of pastry and cake and all of that too. And I was like, I don't know, make a cake. Like put me on Nailed It if you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is not, I'm like, I just do cookies. So I think that was the most unique aspect of it. Is I was the only one who was just a cookier and I was the only one who's a home-based cookier. Everyone else worked in a shop or owned a business.
Yeah. It
And
probably
so-
wasn't as popular then either to be a home-based cookier, huh?
I feel like it was pretty even. They do a really good job about balancing that between the shows, like putting home-based versus not.
Yeah.
I think I would have just, like I said, enjoyed more and leaving there. I have never experienced CookieCon, but it was something that I would probably relate to CookieCon. You leave with such a renewed energy source of being around like-minded people, being around people of skill set and being able to share, hey, this is what I experienced with customers, what I experience here, and having that feedback, which I think now over the years, like you and I have started to create with this platform is that type of camaraderie that was built in a moment of stress. So to de-stress and just know it doesn't matter. At least I made it here. I probably would have changed that. And I don't know. I probably would have studied building better if I would have thought. I don't know what I thought I was going to get. But I was like, oh, I'm not going to get a building thing. And I ended up getting the one thing that I was like,
right.
Yeah, dude, I don't build gingerbread houses. That's not.
I know. So I feel like, I mean, like, I know some of the stories behind like what has come out of it for you as far as like friendships or other people reaching out and things like that. But what would you say if somebody was asking you, like, should I do this? How is it going to benefit my business? Like specifically, what has been like the biggest thing for you that it's has it played a positive role on your business?
I think it has. I always encourage people. People have reached out over the years saying, I got notified. I know you did it. Would you suggest it? 100%. That's just my personality in general, is I say, go for it. I would regret not doing something over just doing it and having the experience, because everything makes you stronger. So I am 100% holy grail, go for it if you were ever approached for it. It did help my business. I know some people said like, yes, my social media grew from other bakers finding me.
Sure.
I got customers from it. And I don't know if
awesome.
it's because of the close relation between like California and Arizona. I do know I am fortunate to live in a larger city.
Yeah.
So I did have people that Christmas that were like, oh my gosh, I just watched you on Christmas Cookie. I had no idea that you were in Arizona. I'm so excited. So I did get great orders and things like longevity of clients through it. So it is a great marketing tool. And I still have people to this day that are like, were you on Christmas Cookie? I'm like, yes. They're like, I was going back and binge watching them. And I was like, I think I know her.
That's so fun.
So yes, I would say it does grow. Again, everybody's different. And I didn't do interviews or the news and things like that, which I do know some people do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that helps your growth from there forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was go for it. If you have the opportunity, just do it.
So if they ever invited you back to do another round of competition, what you're saying is you would go.
Oh, I would go hands down. I love the atmosphere, as we've already gone over, but I love the atmosphere of production.
Yeah.
And being around. Again, my experience was so different because it was pre everything. We had the best ADs and behind the scenes groups, and they would come just like hang out and chill with us and take off their little headsets, and they're like, oh my gosh, I love this part of yours, or talk louder. Like they give you little tips and tricks, and so sweet. Or they'd run and get you coffee or any drink that you might want, and then they come back, they're like, I'm rooting for you. So we had the sweetest group behind the scenes that's awesome. I miss. I'm like, can we go back and just visit them? Like, where did they go in their career?
I love that it was such a wonderful experience. I mean, I always assume that like Food Network, you know, it has that about it, and it's just kind of like more of like a feel good family like environment around it. But it's warming to hear that like from somebody who's actually been there and experienced it, that it's true.
Yes. And every situation is what you make it. So what you put into it, if you're going to go in being super nervous and like, I'm going to win, I'm going to do this, that's your business. It's your approach.
Right.
But again, I feel like whatever energy you bring to a situation is the energy you're going to get in return. So we kept the energy up into the third day, whatever, or third or fourth. I can't remember how many days it was because they all blend together.
Do the competitions does the first round happen on a different day than the second round? That's all on one day. Okay.
Back to back bacon.
Yeah.
That they were like, oh my gosh, you guys are still just as energetic on day. I'm like, yes. It was so hard. You got to like power through it.
Oh, I'm sure. So when they're doing the little interview things where it's like, oh, so are they pulling you out, or they like let you bake and then you do those interviews after?
Everybody's can be a little bit different on that. So it just depends. I think on the production schedule, because they have such a tight ship that they have to like get you in, get you out. There's set time frames. Right. There's not like a lot of time to like dilly daddle and hold. So yeah.
That's so cool. Is there anything else that you want to share about the experience or aftermath, or advice you'd want to give?
Advice I'd want to give is just, you never know what's going to come at you. So it's really hard to prepare. I know I spent like a lot of time overanalyzing, like, what if this happens? What if that happens?
Yeah.
You're in a scenario that it's hard to like pre-time yourself because you know where everything is in your kitchen. So if you truly wanted to try, send your husband in or your kids and have them
Mess stuff
reorganize
up.
everything. And then you're
That's
like,
such a good idea.
where is stuff?
That's an awesome idea. I love that.
So I never accounted for that when I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I am going to time myself. Now I know I'm going to be on a show. I'm just going to give myself my own challenge
Yeah.
and make this. And I was like, oh, yeah, I have so much time. And you guys, I was up to the wire of them counting down on the first round. I was almost tears in my eyes because it didn't thread through how I anticipated.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to not complete. I'm going to be the only one who doesn't complete the task. So
I think that would be like my biggest fear is like just like blank. Like
yeah.
I would fear that I would just like blank out and not be able to think of anything and then just like
Yes.
give them a blank cookie.
I know, it was terrifying. But no, I would definitely say if that's how you're prepping, but just be thankful for what has come your way, be humbled by it, approach everybody in that sense because everyone's coming into it feeling intimidated or scared,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. And yeah, just soak it all in because it is gone in a blink of an eye.
I love that. Well, it sounds like you had an amazing experience. And as always, Chelsea, I love your perspective and just the positive attitude around it. And I think it's a perfect way to kick off this season
Yes,
of
you
all
guys.
of these Christmas cookie challenges. So
It
we
is.
obviously will be powwowing and sharing everything around in our stories. And we are just so excited to watch this whole season with you guys and experience it with you guys. And
Yes. Can't wait to see who's on it. Who are you guys? Let us know below who you are most excited to
I know.
hopefully
We're
see
probably
this season.
future Chelsea, future Melissa. We're probably already seeing some announcements happening.
Yes. I love those. I love to see what pictures people choose to post and how they like creatively
I know.
announce. It's always so fun. So perfect. But you guys, thank you so much for spending the Wednesday morning, afternoon, evening, whenever this is your bake time now.
It's a Wednesday.
It is. With us. We appreciate it. If there's any questions we didn't touch on, we'll pop it in the stories and I will try and answer what I can. But again, thank you guys. I am Chelsea with Rolling in the Dough AZ.
I'm Melissa with Missy P Sweets. May your cakes never be dry.
And your icing be shiny and crater free. Have a good one, guys.
Bye, y'all.